Locality pay is a significant bonus most federal employees receive, but few understand how it works. The lowest you will receive is a 16.5% benefit, and the highest is a 44.15% bonus to your pay. In this episode, we're going to define what locality pay is and why it's important. We're going to provide some ways that federal employees are taking advantage of this benefit, and we're going to list the highest and lowest locality pay areas. Welcome. I'm Ed Smith, President of Valor Wealth Partners, where we're dedicated to maximizing your often underutilized federal benefits. Today, we're going to be talking about locality pay. This is an amazing benefit that federal employees have that most national large companies in the U.S. don't have. This is great for you, but most federal employees are not taking advantage of this to their full benefit. So we're going to share some really good ways to be able to look at this and also how you can be able to use it, but also some danger areas that you also have to avoid. We provided a lot of resources in the description section, so please use them to your advantage. There's some OPM websites. There's also a non-OPM website with a really cool map on it. So please take a look at all of this information. The first thing we should do is define what locality pay is. Basically, it's an adjustment to your pay based on the area of the country that you live on, based off of the cost of living in those specific areas. Now, the locality pay is not state specific. It is generally around urban areas, and it's set generally by counties. There are some cities that are specific to it or by zip code, but generally it is set by the county that you're in. So it's a wide variety of different areas that might happen. The locality pay is for everybody that's in the U.S. that's a GS employee. Now, there is some limitations of who is not. There are also some non-GS employees that do qualify for it, but they are required to be annually approved that they'll be able to get this going forward, or at least for that year. And also, there's a lot of people that don't get it that are federal employees, such as wage grade employees or hourly employees, or employees that are stationed overseas. They also don't get locality pay. So not every federal employee gets it, mostly the GS employees that are in the U.S. Why is this so important, though? Is, like I said earlier, the lowest is going to be 16.5%, and the highest is 44.15%. If you're at a $100,000 base pay, for an example, this is a $28,000 or almost a $28,000 difference between the lowest and the highest on that level. That's a very big difference. So are you taking advantage of that extra money that you could go? Or are you shifting to a different county that might be just a few blocks away and to get a huge bump in your pay on those different areas? So this is something that you want to be able to look at and be aware of this. Again, those resources, you can actually look at where those are, localities, and specific by zip code to figure out what's best for you. Locality is set by the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the annual National Compensation Survey. Well, that's a lot. That's right in there. But there's a link to that, so you can actually look at what this survey is if you really want to dig into it. I would just basically look at the locality pay, but if you really want to look at all the data, we provided that link as well for you. So now let's look at how you can take advantage of this as a federal employee. The first thing, and one of the biggest things that a lot of people look at, a lot of federal employees look at, is shifting where they live for the last 3 years of their federal service. Now, it doesn't have to be their last 3, but it's generally the highest 3 compensation years because you want to get a high 3 for your pension, or the largest high 3 for your pension. So if you're in an area that, let's say the lowest area is 16.5, and you jump to a higher area in the 30s or into the 40s, a 40% locality pay, that could be a very big bump to your pension on your high 3 for the rest of your life. All right, so this is a very big thing to be able to look at. Just remember that when you move to these areas, you will have a very high cost of living because that's what the locality pay is based off of, is the cost of in those areas. So it's not that you just get to go live there and you still are on the same cost that you have. You also might be maintaining costs in your current area that you are that's in a lower locality pay. So you actually might be maintaining 2 households for that high 3 period of time. Another thing that you want to be looking at is that your pension is not adjusted for locality pay once you retire. And we actually do get this question quite often saying, if I move to an area that is less expensive, will they reduce my pension in retirement? So no. So you get the big bump of the high 3 and your pension for the rest of your life. And if you move to a lower costing area in retirement, you're not penalized, which is a really good benefit for a lot of federal employees. But again, remember that when you're moving to these higher areas, that you are going to have that higher cost of living. So you just want to be cautious of this, because even though the locality pay is trying to adjust for those costs, they don't always get it right. And it could be just a street or two away from where the boundary is for that locality pay, and your cost still might be higher, or you actually might be able to be in a high locality area and the costs aren't as bad as what they are if you're a little bit closer to that urban area that it might be adjusted to. We're also not suggesting that you move to a high locality area for all of your federal service. Again, if you want to, and that's what you want to be able to do, sure, that's fine. But you also want to be able to make sure that you're maximizing it for that high 3, not necessarily for the length of your full federal service, because again, your costs are more expensive. So you just have to be aware of what's going on and how to be able to maximize this for you. Besides the high 3, there's very few benefits of moving to a higher locality area unless it's just a very close proximity to where you are. And like I said, those links are there, so you can actually find the zip codes or the areas that it might make a big difference. And these areas do change on an annual basis. Just in 2023, there was 4 areas that were expanded. So there's areas that they look at on a regular basis. Some of the areas were Massachusetts, DC, where we work a lot. So those 2 areas were expanded in the 2023 area. There were 2 other localities that were expanded as well. Let's take a look at where you possibly might move to take advantage of those high locality areas. Here's the top 5 areas that you can look at and the percentages of those areas for locality pay. So as you can see, the San Francisco area has the highest at 44.15%, very high number. And then you see it drops down drastically to the next level, which is New York City. Then you have LA, Houston, and then Washington, D.C. So any one of these 5 are in the very high level of this. And you can get the full list below in that description area. But as you can see, this is a very big bump in those areas. But you might say, well, geez, I don't like any of these areas, or I don't like some of these areas. Maybe I like another area. So it's not that you always have to go to the highest, but knowing that moving to, say, San Francisco area is going to give you the biggest benefit for your pension. You also might not have an opportunity to move there. So DC might be the opportunity to move because of there's more federal employees there. There's more federal jobs. Your agency might have a position or allow you to move there for those last final years that you have. And you don't have to move for all 3 years. You might just have 2. Your high 3 is still going to be increased because of the 2 years that you possibly have on that side. Now let's look at the lowest. And one of the lowest that you see, or the lowest that you'll have, is what's called rest of the country. And this is just a catch-all for all of the different areas that aren't included. So everybody in the U.S. is covered by a locality pay if you're under that GS schedule. Like I said before, not every federal employee is covered under locality pay. But if you are, this rest of the country will be a catch-all for you. The other areas that we want to be able to look at that are low on the pay scale are Corpus Christi, Texas, Des Moines, Iowa, Palm Beach, Florida, and then Birmingham, Alabama. So as you can see, these numbers are a lot lower and close to that 16.5% range for the rest of the country. So again, you can see if you're in that rest of the country and you move to San Francisco, that's a huge bump in your pay. It really can take advantage of this. We just want to be able to make sure that you're not jumping just for that pay for a long period of time, because it can be very costly in some of these areas. But there are some advantages, but you also have to look at the job that you're doing and making sure that you're happy in that job and not just going for a paycheck or a bump in your pay. So being happy at your job is very important. But again, if you can be happy and also get paid a little bit more, that's a double whammy that you're getting both benefits and having a better pension for the rest of your life. Hopefully today has been helpful for you in looking at the different types of locality pays. We want the best for you and your family, so please get conflict-free, unbiased advice. Thank you for your time today, and we'll look forward to helping you in the next video.